One of our major successes with Corrigan was our expansion project at Cardinal Glennon Hospital for Children.
Cardinal Glennon is famous for its health care for children. And this neonatal unit, these rooms, they wanted them to be on the cutting edge of technology. They wanted to be the best that they could be.
Typically, you have a plan and spec project. And the plan and spec project is where the engineering firm and the architectural firms build the job on paper. And a lot of times the project doesn't get built as it's shown on paper due to constraints and different things that you run into during everyday construction projects. On this job, we are allowed to have the guys that were actually building the job participate in how we were going to build it. We explained to them that they were going to have a seat at the table. They were going to be allowed to sit at the design table and voice their opinions and give practical, common, everyday things that they typically fight when they're building a job, that they're able to sit there and they're actually to bring a solution to the table. They didn't believe us at first. We went to the first design meeting and I kept nudging them, speak up, speak up. And once the first question or the first constraint was figured out versus a suggestion from either Jimmy or Warren, the floodgates were open. They became one in the process.
I looked over at the architects and the engineers, and they were writing down as fast as they could some of the problems that were out there on the job that they were unaware of. And it made their job as the engineers much easier to solve these problems.
And they were so excited to have the opportunity to have their voice heard up front rather than when it's always too late and okay, you know, it's going to be done this way. And by doing that, we were able to alleviate a lot of added cost.
The men are a vast resource of construction knowledge and experience, and if you don't tap into it, you're not maximizing the potential of the job. So we did that at Cardinal Glennon, and as the job went on, the men realized what they were bringing to the table, and they were very happy to be part of that and be part of a successful project.
What added to the complexity is the fact that Cardinal Glennon is essentially an inner city hospital with a very tight site, and so you're squeezing these expansions in as best you can where you can, and that adds a whole lot of complexity to the project.
In the very, very beginning of the job, we had talked about building a neonatal intensive care unit room somewhere. And we talked about it sitting around a table because we figured if we're going to build one and there's going to be 59 other ones, we may as well build one right and get it right the first time so that the other 59 will be perfect.
At first they said, how much is it going to cost? And we said, you know, I don't know. Who cares? We're going to build 60 of these things. We should at least make every effort to get it right.
We built it here in our fab shop, and each trade did their particular part. But other than having the medical gas system hooked up and the water hooked up, it was a 100% ready to go neonatal intensive care unit room.
It was to detail in every respect, from the giraffe bed, which is the hospital bed for the infant, to air flowing through the registers, the nurse's station, the sink, the faucet, even the curtains, the head walls, everything was exact.
The pre-planning that went into that prototype was something that you normally don't get the opportunity to do. Again, you build it once, and then you go build it out in the field, and you take it from one room to 60 rooms, and if you build it once right, you're going to build it right 59 times. And once the owner got engaged and allowed us to do that, it took off from there. We bought Cardinal Glennon over. We had their head of their neonatal intensive care unit. We had their head nurses.
This allowed the doctors and nurses to come in and try it out, get a hands-on. Now, everything that we outfitted this room in the beginning with was everything that they thought they wanted. Well, that soon changed.
They sit and they sit around and design meetings and try to describe what it is they want amongst the architects and the engineers, and then they have somebody slip a plan in front of them and say, is this what you want? And they go, well, I guess it is, not really understanding a whole lot what they're looking at.
The very first time a nurse walked into the room when the bed was there, the head wall was placed, she said, this isn't going to work. And the architect said, well, this is what we designed, this is what we discussed. And she said, no, that head wall will not work with that bed.
You certainly get some great input, and you could see them getting excited about it. The first trip was 1 or 2 people. After that, they had a van full of people. They would bring their monitors, they would bring everything they needed to totally outfit.
They all had input and they all had their comments, and every comment was taken seriously, because what we think as a mechanical contractor that's important to us may not be important to the nurse that has to service that poor child every single day.
It comes down to mutual respect. You know, I'm not a doctor, but the doctor's not the pipe fitter either. And so, you know, if everyone approaches these problems and respects the other for what they do, you know, you can get a long way in solving problems.
We had the last planners, we had the craftsmen right there, listening to the doctors and nurses, and from their experience, were able to give their suggestions and resolve the issue.
You can implement anything you want on a project, but if you don't have people that are willing to commit themselves to doing what you ask them to do, it's not going to work.
Let me tell you a very quick story. I believe it was a fall morning, somewhat cool, and we were out there with a couple engineers, and it was about the 3rd level of the project. They were getting ready to make a pour. So we had, every craft was out there, electricians, pipe fitters, plumbers, carpenters, ironworkers, and everybody was there getting ready. With that, you could hear the kid copter coming in, and what that is more of a flight for life for Cardinal Glennon. Here it comes. The closer it got to the helipad, you saw everyone stop. They looked up. Nobody wanted to see that. With that, they all looked at each other. There was a couple words traded. They all went back to work at double time. You could just see that we've got to get this done. This is important. So no, that particular project, they took it to heart. It wasn't just a job. There was a purpose, and they wanted to see it. They cared about these kids. If we would have outfitted every one of these rooms, all 60 of these rooms, based on the original design, the head walls alone would have cost an additional probably $1 million to change out, not to mention all the sinks and faucets. So it was a significant savings for the hospital.
We were very unique in the team that was assembled for that project, and everybody bought into the process, and the results speak for themselves. It came in under budget, it came in ahead of schedule, and the first day they performed a surgery or a baby hit that NICU room, they were running full force.
We had to make the end user happy, which equated to the children getting better care, and that's what it was all about.
Wow. It exceeded their expectations, and that's really a thrill to when you see somebody experience that wow factor, you know.
So the mock-up was a very big success, and everybody was really proud to see 60 of these things built that all worked really well.
You know, what can you say? They did a great job. They were a great partner, and they will continue to be as we pursue all of our facility needs. In the future, Corrigan will always be on our list of strategic partners.